Please.
Commissioner Patton,
Here.
Commissioner Barwick,
Here.
Commissioner Webb,
Here.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Here.
Mayor Absher.
Here. If you would join me and actually, let's see, Mr. Fitz can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now on the agenda is our opportunity for our audience to visitors and any public comment subject to the ordinance 3128, which applies to govern this.
Has joined the meeting.
Sounds like we have somebody on the phone, so we will ask anyone else that's on there if they would like to ask or speak to the council through that mechanism.
Hi, this is the public comment section of tonight's city council meeting. Is there anyone on the public call that has a comment for the council?
We do have people on there, right?
Yeah, somebody just got on.
Okay.
Let me ask one more time. Are there anyone on the call that has any comments for the city council? Okay, if not, we would please request that you mute your phone for any background noise. Thank you.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is rather short tonight, just consists of minutes from our previous regular and special meeting.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second that.
Any questions on these? I presume no one wants either of those removed from the agenda? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Move on to new business, item 5A.
I'll speak to these three. All three TIF agreements on tonight's agenda included in your packet are with Carlos Tanner. These are separate LLCs that he's in charge of. These are all projects, residential rehab projects within the residential TIF. His plan is just to rehab these homes and then either rent them or sell them, but making more out of them than what they currently are. And this is primarily one of the main reasons that we wanted to do this TIF is so we can take a street-by-street, house-by-house approach to fixing up some of the properties within this residential TIF. So this is one of the first three agreements within that residential TIF.
Okay, you guys have any questions on any three of these? And then we'll, if not, we'll just,
That 401k, that's just a retirement deal, I guess he's using, or?
it's just the owner is a trust, it looks like, of that property.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion then to approve ordinance 3613, redevelopment agreement with Mr. JECC LLC for a property located at 904 East Carter Street within the residential TIF.
I would second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item B.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 3614, a redevelopment agreement with the Tanner 401k Plan Trust for a property located at 107 East Goodall within the residential TIF.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item C.
I would make a motion that we would approve ordinance 3615, a redevelopment agreement with Tanner 401k Plan Trust for a property located at 507 South Buchanan within the residential TIF.
Second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Okay, items D through I are all community development block grants. We had a hearing on this at actually shortly after 5:30 because we had some technical issues with Celeste Sollers from the county. And again, once again, she helped, was really instrumental And Cody worked with her to get these 6 other grants. I think this totals 142.5. Does that sound right? Another $142,500 worth of grants for these 6 companies. And that's what all these are about. Okay, so we will just do this like we did the last time, starting with Commissioner Patton and kind of go round robin with these.
I make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-26 in support of the application for a community development block grant on behalf of Marion Glass in the amount of $25,000.
I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. I move to adopt Resolution 2020-27 in support of the application for a community development block grant on behalf of Olympic Pools in the amount of $25,000.
I would second that.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay.
And I would move for adoption of Resolution 2020-28 in support of the application for a community development block grant on behalf of Distinctive Interiors in the amount of $25,000.
I would second that.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay.
I'd like to adopt Resolution 2020-29 in support of the application for a community development block grant on behalf of Graphics Galore in the amount of $25,000.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay.
I would move that we would adopt Resolution 2020-30 in support of the application for a community development block grant on behalf of New You Body Sculpting in the amount of $17,500.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay.
I move to adopt Resolution 2020-31 in support of the application for a community development block grant on behalf of AccuGrow in the amount of $25,000.
I second that. Roll call, please. Sorry, I forgot.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Item number 6, Mr. Barwick, do you want to, since that's your department, make that recommendation?
Yes. I'd make the recommendation of the fire chief and also the merit board to promote Jesse Burton to the rank of captain, Sean Walsh to the rank of lieutenant, and Bill Heidi to the position of assistant chief per the collective bargaining agreement terms effective May 4th, 2020. And what this is in reference to is the retirement of the current assistant chief, and this would replace his position and then backfill the captain and the lieutenant position.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Item number 7 is a order of business. Each May 1st, by ordinance, we have to establish the mayoral appointments and the department heads, all of which are outlined for you in your packet. There are no changes. The only thing that's not exactly, wasn't on here before actually, is Tim Stotler's position, which is already announced, but that's Building and Code Services Director. So rest easy, everybody else got reappointed in this document, but that's what this is. So that would be my motion to approve Ordinance 3612, establishing appointments to offices for the new fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2020.
I would second that.
Okay, any questions or comments on that?
Is that yearly?
Yes.
Okay.
Any others? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Let's go ahead and get a motion and a second on this before we have any substantive discussion, please, on item B.
I'd make a motion to adopt the resolutions 2020-25 authorizing revision of the 2019-2020 annual budget.
Second that.
Okay, I would like to open up this with some housekeeping items just for transparency's sake to the public on how this budget process, which of course is new to me and a couple of other commissioners and somewhat different, I think, maybe than what had been done in the past. So the part that was done differently than in the past is that each commissioner was responsible for working.
This is the last budget.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Okay, scratch all that stuff. These comments are for the next item. Wasn't paying close enough attention to that. I'm sorry. Okay, so we still have a motion and a second. This is a revision of the current year budget. Let me make a comment about that then. So in our form of government, we have to authorize at the beginning of the year a budget plan, which is anticipated, I'll put in parentheses, guess as to what your revenue side of the equation might look like, and then a spending plan that by department, by fund, authorizes without additional council action the spending of those funds. So as is inevitable, both sides of that equation changes throughout the course of the year. So once that picture is complete, which it is pretty much at this point, and we know what it is, we have to, by law, review that, and by resolution, not by ordinance, we have to approve basically the spending plan in arrears that changed. And so I think we've got in our packets what those line items were specifically that changed. I don't know if can you give us just at a high level what the budget ended up looking like in terms of the general fund specifically?
Steve, can you, just so everyone on here can hear?
It ended up much better than what we anticipated. We're looking at, I think the original budget was a little over 100,000 or to the, in fact, yeah, a little over 100,000 to the good and general fund. And we're anticipating, what, 5 to 600 some odd $1,000 to the good in general fund this year.
And most of that, I think, was predominantly from better revenues than we
That's
thought.
correct. That's
It
correct.
was,
Yes, better sales tax and income tax.
yeah.
Those were the three main items: home rule, municipal sales tax, and the income tax.
Okay.
Which would have even been probably a better spread without the issues we had in March and April, I guess.
Well, we actually haven't, no, actually, those won't be known to us until, the March won't be known to us until July. I'm sorry, until June, and the May won't be known to us until, what did I just say? March won't be known to us until June. April won't be known to us in July, nor recognized as revenue until then. And that'll be more for this next line item that we have to discuss. But
Right.
so this was essentially any revenue that was reported to us and collected through January of this year. So we had, before the wheels came off of everything in March with the orders that we're living under right now, that was as I understand it. And this also our sales tax component that was increased, that went into effect that month. But even if you take that off, that was the best January from a sales tax standpoint that Marion's ever had.
Yes, in both sides, best December and January
Yeah.
we've ever had. In fact, to put into perspective, for the year, if you take our total municipal sales tax, it equates out to over $800 million in total sales for the year. I mean, that's pretty astonishing.
Yeah. And if I did my math right, even if you take off that additional component of home rule, it looks like to me that January was like
It was the best ever.
13% increase over any other January we'd ever had, even over the next best one. So the good news is we were cooking with Crisco at that point. The bad news is that is over. So anyway, that we'll have to talk about that. But any other questions of Steve on this revision? It turned out very well. And yes, we had some spending increases in there based on predominantly my recommendations to hire different personnel, but that was offset by certain savings for those personnel. And that stuff more or less offset each other. At the end of the day, it was the revenue side of the equation that produced the surplus. But make no mistake, we're going to need that surplus this coming year.
So just to be clear, Steve, and make sure that I myself understand that,
Uh-huh.
we were projecting $100,000 surplus based on last year's budget.
Yes.
And as it's turned out, we are in the neighborhood of $500,000
Or better,
surplus.
yes, uh-huh, yes.
Okay.
Actually, a little better than that, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, actually a little better, but, say 500 just to be conservative, but yeah. But right now, the numbers, yeah, are looking a little bit better than that
I
even.
think some things that we were worried about as far as new personnel and money that we spent that we didn't actually budget for, I think things turned out very well.
Oh, they did, very well.
Well, what turns out to be the good thing this year is going to turn out to be the challenging thing in this forward year. And again, to accentuate this as we move beyond this, and we'll need to vote on this resolution first, but again, the biggest challenge you have from a business management standpoint with all of this is the delay that there is in reporting the figures to us. We do not know what January sales or sales tax was until we get the payment. So one of the questions I have in front of the Illinois Municipal League right now is, especially given today's turbulent times, is there any kind of sampling or anything the Illinois Department of Revenue could be doing to try to take a temperature, if you will, over what stuff is looking like? For example, what was generated in March? Surely by the end of... Now, it takes a while for those remitters to pay that too. It's not that the state's just delaying. You collect it March 31st, that may not be due. I think some of it's due weekly, most of it's due.
Right, most of it's due April 20th.
Yeah, so, there's bona fide reasons for it, but what we're hoping for, I just don't know is possible because they are having a lot of work at home type environments and that kind of thing too in Department of Revenue. But it would be very helpful for every municipality and every unit of government if they could try to give us some sort of a heads up on what some of those categories are looking like across the board. And I have a couple more comments relative to that, but I'll wait for this next time to talk about that. So any other questions on this revised annual budget for 2020 that did result in a surplus, which is a good thing, obviously? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay?
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item C is, I'll just go ahead and make the motion and somebody can second, and then we'll go ahead and discuss. I would move to approve ordinance 3617, establishing the budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'd like to make some general comments. I got out of order with this. I thought we were on the other one, on this one before. So the normal budget process, as I observed it, was to meet as a group and kind of go what I felt was pretty inefficiently line item by line item, trying to understand the budget. We chose to do a different route this time and kind of divide and conquer, which each of us had the opportunity to more closely scrutinize our own department's part of the budget that Steve had prepared. In some cases, I had worked on some of it. So I was pretty pleased with that process. I think Steve did a great job of getting us to that point, and that's all in the midst of having to deal with new budget software, which was one of the purchases that we did. That, for me, just to let you know, because it's more real time and I can do it on a secured connection from home and don't have to just be here to look at that stuff, that has helped out quite a bit. Just the way I work and late at night sometimes looking at stuff. So that's very appreciative. But that's had its challenges for Steve to be able to navigate, make sure it's all in the same format as before. But I just want to say I'm very pleased with how that worked out.
It was a joint effort by a lot of people.
Yeah, no doubt. In general terms, most of this is for the public's consumption of these comments. This really dovetails into the conversation that I just had, the comments I just had about the delay in reporting of knowing what our numbers are in terms of the budget. There can be almost to a person, no one questioning at this point that the economic environment we have found ourselves in with basically the shutdown of our economy is going to have, I hope, somewhat short of, and this is a big word to use, but I think most governmental units will look at it this way, but I hope it's a little bit short of a cataclysmic event for all budgets. That being said, I've been getting a lot of questions about different things. I want to reiterate some things. With the exception of just 3 or 4, which had to do with the water office, 1 employee in the city clerk's department here in City Hall, and IT department, all of the furloughs that we have enacted up until this point, with the exception of those 4 or 5, were made in facilities that we are not allowed to have open. They have no revenue opportunity whatsoever there, and that was our discussion in a very difficult decision. Tried to make it very clear, although there's some employees on Facebook and such that have posted snarky comments, frankly, about being non-essential and those things. And again, I just want to say from my standpoint, and I believe to a person on the council, that is not the way that we look at it. We believe all of our facilities are essential, and we believe everybody that works in those facilities are essential. But the truth is, they only exist for the consumption of our patrons, of the people that pay a fee, whether that's a fee to use the hub, a fee to go to a show, or what have you. Those facilities only exist for that revenue potential and the visitors, and that revenue is what we pay those employees out of. It is not intended to pay the employees of those facilities, although we supplement it with tax money in some of those cases. That's not the primary mode of revenue to pay those employees. It's the tickets and the memberships that are in those facilities. So we felt like we had to make a difficult decision to furlough those employees until such time when we can have those facilities back open and presumptively revenue back in those facilities. So again, I just want to reiterate for those that somehow feel slighted out there that as much as it has to feel like a gut punch, and anytime somebody gets furloughed, laid off, or certainly fired or anything like that, we get that, we understand that, and empathize with that. But we also have a duty to the taxpayer in Marion, and that's to be a good steward of the tax dollars. And I just don't know how we could keep that many people on the payroll and have them sitting at home indefinitely and be true to the taxpayer's interest as well. So beyond that, though, that situation still exists, unfortunately. As of May 1st, we find the governor's order to have been extended since the last time we met. And that brings us more to the overall budget scenario. So this budget, for all purposes, was developed prior to this economic derailment. All right. So it's obvious, it is going, assuming we pass it, it's going to be a public document. It can be scrutinized and you can look at it. It was a surplus budget yet again, based on guesses on revenue and guesses, much more educated guesses on expenses. The problem that we face is we will not know. We have no way of knowing even what the last half, everything was going pretty good through the first part of March. It's the last half of March. We will not know that until late June, even the back half of March. The first full month of this in April, which we're just ending right now, we won't know that until late July. Now, there's 2 arguments to be made on adjusting this budget based on this. One, we could make very draconian cuts right now that would be an attempt to try to get ahead of that number, whatever that might be. Or you can wait until we have more facts. One, we're presenting this budget to you because there is no other budget to present. There's no other facts. There's no other numbers to go off of. This budget represents our best work and guesses, frankly, of what our outlook was before all this happened. There is no question, and I want to be clear about this to the city employees. I want to be clear about this to the public. There is no question that this budget is going to have to be dramatically changed as we move through the year. What we don't know is how dramatically. And just like I said before, and again, I don't mean this as a scare tactic. Matter of fact, I mean it just the opposite. And I want to be very clear about this. City government doesn't operate without our city employees. It's all consisting of services. That may be fire protection services, it may be police protection services, it might be street, might be IT, might be my job, whatever, accounting, treasury, but they're all essential. We can't function and provide the level of services that our constituents are accustomed to without making cuts to payroll. I want to be very clear about it because at the moment in time that we have to deal with whatever revenue shortfalls we're seeing, there is no practical way that we will be able to balance, if you will, the budget solely on paper clips and things like that. We will do that too, and we will do that first. But none of that stuff in aggregate, somewhere from the general budget standpoint, somewhere in the neighborhood of plus or minus a few percent, 80% of that budget is tied to personnel or personnel-related benefits and costs, okay? We could cut the other fifth of that all day. We could cut all of it out, and it wouldn't probably balance the budget shortfall. My best guess, and it is completely a guess, is that we'll be in the neighborhood of somewhere between a $3 and a $5 million budget hole once the clouds part. But that's even a pretty big range, because here's the thing. You just don't know how long. We obviously don't know when the light switch gets turned on. We don't know if all of them get switched on at the same time, as far as what kind of activities can happen, what kind of business activities can go back. More importantly, we don't know how long it will take the buying public to go back and buy things, whether that's attending a show at the Civic Center or a membership at the Hub or buying a car or buying clothes or buying a meal. There's lots of body of speculation going on there right now about how this has changed society. We have to do everything we can when that time comes to encourage business activity, because that's what funds every municipality for the most part and every other unit of government. So we're all wanting to get back on track, so to speak. My personal demeanor towards why shouldn't we be making these cuts right now or getting out ahead of it? Well, because I still have some hope that things will get back on track quicker than what most of us probably in our night sweats have thought is possible. And let me give you an example of that. And maybe this is wishful thinking on my part. When I say this, you'll understand what I mean. So we are blessed in the city to have about 5 tax remitters that remit approximately 30%, let's just say, plus or minus, of our sales tax revenue. You can guess those big stores are. I'm not going to name them here. We'll just say we appreciate them. All the rest of the stores kind of below that, with few exceptions, don't amount to more than 1% of the total in of themselves, okay? Part of the group that makes an enormous part when added together, because we're all in the same business, is one I can speak to pretty confidently, and that's the car business. Marion's always been blessed not only with our big stores that generate a huge chunk of our revenue, but because of the car dealers. That's another reason why we're up at that $800 million. I mean, we're knocking on the door of $1 billion worth of retail sales in Little Marion, Illinois, and we should be very proud of that. We need to get back to that point, but a huge chunk of that, dollar sales-wise, is made up with car sales, new and used. So I can tell you confidently that that part of the tax revenue right now, even though we've not got reporting on that from the state, I can tell you it's eviscerated. It's gone. All of it, for all intents and purposes. Portions of car dealerships are allowed to stay open, but very minimally. And I would, if I had to venture a guess that would apply to every car dealership in town, I would say our overall sales dollars are down more than 80%. So you can surmise that more than 80% of the sales tax revenue is off. Now that sounds like a very dire, horrific, cataclysmic, insert whatever word you want in here. Here's the caveat to that though, and here's why my recommendation is that we not overreact on the budget. Because I haven't been through this before. No one has on the pandemic side, but I've been through 9/11 before, which felt very similar in the car business in terms of just the tap getting shut off specifically for the car business. And here, I just want you to consider this. My lot, I only have 2 of them here in town. There's several car dealers, but I think you can probably go to the other lots and see the same thing. I'm not sure where we would park anything else if the manufacturer shipped us any more cars. I literally don't know where we would park them. What maybe most retail buyers of cars don't always recognize is it's the car dealerships that are the customer to the car manufacturer. Retail buyers are customers to the car dealerships. My point in delineating this is, if my lot's full and so is everybody else's, for the car manufacturers to start up again, which they're all desperate to, and critical on a national level for our economy to function, they have to ship these cars somewhere. And they're not going to want to build them and put them in empty cornfields. Although that's possible. They already have empty cornfields full of them. They have to clear the lots in order to free up the manufacturing pipeline. What I'm telling you is when the spigot gets turned back on, it's going to be turned on with a force like you've never seen it before. And before anybody accuses me of this being a car dealership commercial, which it's not, I'm just telling you I've been through this before. We could almost not keep up with it after such hand-wringing and dire straits thinking and literally waking up in the middle of the night with deep, deep sweats. When it turned on, it was like nothing. It was like the other end of the spectrum. So I think just in that one little corner of it, of our sales tax revenue, I don't think all is lost. I don't think all car sales are lost forever. I think they get backloaded, if that makes sense. I think we're going to have, when the spigot gets turned on, some bombastically big months. I'm hopeful for that, actually, obviously, in the car business, and we need it at this point to make up for some of that. But the sales tax revenue is going to follow that, if that's right. And it won't, who knows? I'm not swearing it's right. I'm saying I've been through it before. And I sense very clearly, because I do still get, even though I'm here, I still at home, I get all my emails from all the different car manufacturers, and I know to some extent, not details, but I know that they know what they have to do. Does that make sense? There's a lot of they knows in there. They know what they have to do. And there isn't a choice. So I am still hopeful on that segment. Anybody that has driven by some of those big stores that I won't name because I don't want to leave anybody out, I think anybody with eyes can tell that they're not suffering, and that's a big part of our sales tax revenue. In some cases, I have it pretty confidently that they've increased sales over this time last year for bad reasons, but they've increased sales over last year. Just like in my business, we don't start cutting employees because, to be honest with you, we had to find them in the first place. We looked for them in the first place. They were the best ones that we could find. Our business can't function without them. So my little speech here is to justify to the public and to explain to employees what I believe our demeanor in this short term should be relative to budget cutting. We have lots of options open to us, including, and this would not be my first goal, but if we end up with a little bit of a budget shortfall, we can borrow money and pay it back over several years. If this derailment is temporary, and I think it will be, and we get back on track, there's nothing wrong with that. I have and will do the very same thing in my businesses because I don't want to discard the very thing that made my business what it is. So my suggestion to you guys is, as we will inevitably have to move into this discussion when the facts present themselves, is that we not overreact and that we look at our employment base as the assets of the city, not liabilities of the city. And if we have any hope of providing the services in the future, we need to make every effort to retain them. So, and to the employees out there that might be watching, I wanted you to hear that from me too. Now, a little bit contrary to that, and this is my only other comment, and then I will hush and let you guys say what you want. But as Steve alluded, he and I and Cody especially, and we've been deep into this for quite a while, looking at lots of detailed numbers. This budget does not have included, because by the time we had to come to this decision, it was known exactly what we were facing. Does not contemplate, this is, as far as I know, the first time in recent history, any employee pay raises. Now, I know there's some employees that are upset with that, and they think that they're due that. I'm not going to argue whether somebody has earned it or due. Matter of fact, I could name off the top of my head about 15 that I think have earned massive pay increases. It's just a matter of whether you can justify that in a public body like that. And the answer is you can't. You have to inch up people and try to make it good where you can. The issue is not whether somebody has earned it or whether it hasn't. The issue is how do we, if we even think, and I think we will have to think, despite my last comment, we're going to have to think at some point of budget cuts relative to personnel, potentially. It's just going to make it that much harder to balance if we take $100,000 out of this budget and spread it amongst the employees. I'm not suggesting that this is permanent. I hope that it's not. I hope that we can get the train back on track, and sometime in this budget year, it would be up to the five of us to determine whether those can be enacted and whether or not they should be retroactive or not. The other issue that I have with it is I think it's unconscionable in a public scenario, public body, when there's 26 million people that have filed unemployment claims in the last 3 or 4 weeks in the private sector. I think it's unconscionable that we as a public body take tax money and increase everybody's pay. All the meanwhile, we still have some of our own employees that at no fault of their own are furloughed. It is not the right message. It's not the right budget number. It's not the right math. I hope it's not permanent. I hope we can reward our employees that many of them have so deserved it. Obviously, this does not apply to the contractual raises that we're obligated to under our collective bargaining agreements with the various unions. So they still get what they have been promised contractually. But for all the at-will employees, that's my rationale for suggesting that we go this route. I know that doesn't make some people very happy, and I know it doesn't make me very popular. I stand behind that decision and will defend it gladly. All the meanwhile, saying it's regretful, and I hope that we can make good on this at some point. But we have got to get our city finances back on track once we know what that picture looks like first. Okay, that's my spiel with that. That's my comments on the budget. Who else has comments or questions?
Mayor, is there any talk of any federal assistance coming through? I mean, I've been kind of hearing that off and on.
Yes. So the CARES Act, that was this $2.2 trillion, it's hard for me to even make that come out of my mouth, dollar stimulus that the federal government passed, included a provision in it for state governments. As I understand it, the state of Illinois would, plus or minus, was going to receive $8 billion, that's with a B. Of that, 45% of that was to go to cities. The caveat had to be that they were only cities that were 500,000 or more in population. So the state of Illinois has one city that meets that criterion. And once again, there you go.
I don't know which one that would be.
It starts with a C and ends with Chicago. But anyway, I know that the Illinois Municipal League, that is led by Brad Cole, who just happens to be a friend of mine and the former mayor of Carbondale, understands and is pleading with the governor for that 45% of $8 billion, so you're roughly talking about $4 billion plus or minus, to be distributed per capita throughout the state. So counties would get a certain amount of it, cities would get a certain amount of it. Doesn't matter whether you're a small village with 2,000 people or you've got 17 or 18,000. All the more reason, by the way, another reason why please register for the census. Very important. These are the kind of reasons why the census matters, folks. mycensus2020.gov. 5 minutes, invest 5 minutes, please. This is one example of how that makes a difference. So the problem that I see as I read that legislation federally is the federal government didn't give any leeway to the state governors to do it that way. That's federally penned, worded legislation. And as all of you are aware, legislation can change, and that's what they are hoping to do. If, for example, if you did quick math, was it 45 or 55% went to the state? I may have that backwards, that complement number. Is it 45? And it was like 8.7 billion if I recall right. So if you did that math, and my calculator won't even do that many zeros. Wow. Times 45%, it's 12.7 million in Illinois. Depending on how all that math, that could potentially be anywhere from 2 to 5 million for the City of Marion, if they ever did that. But there's no guarantee whatsoever that they'll change that legislation or that there would be any additional legislation. So I don't think, in absence of any information, we could count on something like that. We I'll put it to you this way, we shouldn't be still talking about cuts in April of next year. It would be too late at that point. But yes, I think there's a possibility for that. And I would encourage you to reach out to your friendly federal legislator
Yes.
and ask them to consider changing that legislation. That's the one thing we can all
If
do.
we do another bill, maybe include us in another bill or something.
Yes. But, all that being said, I don't know that the federal government can or should be just printing money hand over fist too to hand it to anybody. 2.2 trillion is quite a
We pay for
chunk.
it one way or the other.
Yeah, that's true. I think to answer your question, I think there is at least a hope for that, but hope isn't much of a strategy.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We had a first and a second, right?
We do.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay?
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 7D, as you recall, the last meeting, we are changing up a little bit how our membership is to this IML Risk Management Association. That is a cooperative, if you will. And I think, I'll let Cody explain it more, but I think this is a housekeeping measure so
Yeah.
that we declare ourselves as part of that cooperative.
So at our last special meeting on April 17th, council voted to go with this RMA for our workers' compensation for a citywide insurance. This is just a housekeeping matter as we approach that endeavor starting May 1st.
I'd make a motion to approve ordinance 3616, approving the city's membership into the IML Risk Management Association and authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental cooperation contract.
I would second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay?
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Under commissioner reports, we'll start with Commissioner Barwick.
I have a fire report for the month of March. Total incidents were 67. There were 19 100 series fire. There was 1 explosion 200 series. There were 6 rescue and EMS, 8 hazardous material, 11 service calls, 9 good intent calls, 13 activated alarms. Total inspections that were completed were 11. Total hours of shift training was 517. And that's all I've got.
Okay. Doug?
I have nothing, but Steve and I are working on information that we can supply. Interesting information, probably that has not been shared before, but we're
Budget related or?
yeah, budget, money, income, expenses. Yeah, we're coming up. We're formulating some kind of
That's quite a teaser there.
information.
Commissioner Patton.
It is. I just didn't want anybody to think that I wasn't doing anything because I very rarely have anything to.
Well, you're in here every day. I know you're doing something. Okay. Well, now I'm curious. Commissioner Webb.
Yeah, as far as streets go, we're about half done with the cleanup. As we're going around each of the neighborhoods. So far, and we're half done, we've taken 96 loads of junk, so to speak, 61 loads of brush. We picked up 821 tires, which is a lot less tires laying around collecting mosquito nest and what have you, so that's
How many
good.
tires?
821.
That's crazy.
Of those amounts, 32 loads is recyclable, so that's a good for the environment there. So we did have some, I guess, reports of abuse, so to speak. Some people calling 3 and 4 times saying we missed them when actually we've been there. So please try to get your stuff out to the edge of the street just as so we can make one trip, because we do want to try to get the whole city. We don't want to just keep focusing back on one area. So with that, I know the cemetery's busy. The grass is growing, so it's looking good out there. So we appreciate all their hard work, and a lot of graves to mow around out there. So we appreciate their hard work. That's all I got.
Commissioner Steckland?
I don't really have anything on the water sewer, other than busy as usual. The only thing I would say is that I, probably along with everybody here on this council, has gotten a lot of texts and emails and calls and stuff regarding things within the state, the nation, everything else. And I just want to assure everybody that we are looking at all of our options and things like that. And we do feel, like everybody else does, that this thing hopefully at some point will pass. And we are digesting it all to the best we can. So.
Okay. Anything else to come before the council from you guys? If not, we do have a need for a closed session regarding litigation, small matter on property I need to update you with, and one contract matter. So that would be my motion to enter into executive session to discuss those items.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. And again, for those that would be watching this, we were probably in the video, I think, at this point. We're not going to make any action once we finish with this executive session. We'll just end that meeting and close this one. So this would be the end of any action that we would be taking tonight that would need to be videotaped. So with that, thank you all for, yes, sir?
If anyone's still listening, remind them that D Young Street is closed until 7 a.m. at the tracks, east of Fort,
7 tomorrow.
until 7 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay, Chief Fitz from Marion Police Department wanted me to remind everybody that the railroad track that is at DeYoung, I guess DeYoung and Court, just east of that, will be closed until 7 a.m. tomorrow, April 28th, on Tuesday. So to be aware of that and reroute yourselves necessarily. We hope and pray they fix it right this time, once and for all. I know I've actually got a couple of phone calls on that one saying, make sure those turkeys fix it right. I think they will. I think we'll get good result out there. We'll
Lynn,
find
isn't
out.
there a paving job coming up from IDOT, from Court to Fair also?
They're starting patching tonight.
And that'll help as well, as far as the transition.
They could, till the paving gets finished, they could be a rough crossing,
Yeah,
because they put a temporary approach on each
Right,
side.
right.
So we all that back out
Right.
again and bring their new, material, so we get butt up there and get a smooth.
And that's what I wanted to clarify, because I've gotten a couple of phone calls and said, man, is that the best they can do? And it's not. That's a temporary fix. After the paving job or paving operation gets finished, it'll be a lot better when it is.
The paving operation gets finished is what we
Yeah.
judge it by.
Yeah,
They're patching this week, then the next is the milling operation, if they go do it on the flag of the gutter, then they'll be putting down the surface course.
yeah.
That goes to, from Court to Fair. After that's finished, then another contract
picks up at Fair Street and resurfaces the, east to the bridges at Crab Orchard Creek. So from Crab Orchard Creek Bridge, Court Street will be all paved by June or July.
Crab Orchard Creek, which is right around Old 13, right?
It's past
Norm-
Old 13.
Nor,
Down
yeah,
there where the trailer sales.
Sherlock Holmes, yeah.
Okay, we will try to make this as brief as we can so your Pop-Tarts get done or whatever it is.
Pop-Tarts.
And I do not need you to stay, but I need Glenn, Wendy, and Steve to stay in the closed session, please.
He motioned it and you seconded